Hello, listeners. I'm Abigail Wall, and for this next segment, we'll be listening to poet Farah Ali, interviewed by Adolfo Guzman Lopez. The poem titled Endgame is a poem where Farah reflects on her childhood growing up in Syria, while she addresses the spacecraft Cassini on its final voyage.
Endgame. Cassini, you promised you wouldn't be afraid. Bronze burnished, thin legged, starved, you are now entering your death stage. Send me some photos, Cassini.
I I think the recognition of humanity in inanimate objects is something I've been doing since I was very, very small. I remember this sounds ridiculous, but if I'll see toothbrushes facing away from each other, I'll say no. So they have feelings, so I know they don't. They're not real living things. But as far as this probe was concerned, I did feel that it's out there by itself. It's lonely, and part of that was projecting the fear that a person on the ground would be feeling, that you promised you wouldn't be afraid.
Once, my father took a picture of us in front of our house. It had walls and a gate with a lock. It had a roof like my father's arms. It kept out snow and wind. We ran in to eat cake and out to pick apples, running over rocks, stupid with happiness.
I remember I've always been fascinated by where the Voyagers are right now. I think one of them is done, and the other one has left our recordable universe. And then I was aware of Cassini coming to the end of its life, and it just fascinates me that there's this thing out there far away. I'm making it into a human, but just felt it's out there all lonely, and the way it's talked about as well, that it's coming to the end of its mission, and these are the last photographs from it, and then it's going to self-destruct as it's going to be thrown into the rings of Saturn. All that was very dramatic and very sad.
Cassini, does it hurt to graze the rings of Saturn? Tell me if the cold and debris bounce off your little body. Do the rings hum, or is it quiet as a grave out there?
So I was very aware of that, the journey of Cassini, and I was following something, I think, online as it was nearing the end. It was very dramatic, and that it was at the same time as well as there was a big regime issue in Syria at that time with, it's been going on for a long time now, but it was at one of its peak times at that time. People were cowering for cover, and people I know were wondering, should we just do one of those dangerous journeys over the sea and get out for safety, or should we just stay back and just wait for it all to go away? So somehow the two events coincided in my head, as a feeling of loneliness and a feeling of out of control, of not being able to control your external circumstances, as maybe your life might be coming to an end.
He died, my father did, Cassini, when he went to check if the family in the other street could spare us some bread, now that their daughter had died. Cassini, I will play you a song over the radio in my head. The arrangement of it will match your 22 dives and the barrel bomb explosions. Maybe you will forget about the countdown to your lonely end.
In my mind, distinctly, it was very specific to Syria, and part of the reason is because I spent part of my childhood there. I lived there 3 years when I was a kid, 1993 to 1996. I was in Damascus, and we would travel to Aleppo a lot. We would travel to Homs and Hama and Latakia, all those places, and then to read about those places as, oh, the citadel that we used to visit is now gone, or even in Damascus, which is where I was, went to school there and hung out in this neighborhood or that neighborhood, and oh, now that's been demolished, or this thing behind the school that you used to go to is no more. I felt very, very deeply about those places, because Syria was a very special place to me, still is. So when this started there, it felt personal in a way.
Now I hear them getting closer, Cassini. Their boots are crushing the rubble to powder, their tanks moving in. At night, I hear them over the rasp of my brother's breaths squeezed out of their shrinking lungs. Cassini, did they tell you when they made you that you will be forgotten? Did they talk to you at eye level, tell you to be noble, to be strong, to close your eyes and hunker down? Yesterday, we lost 2 walls, Cassini. We moved into the room at the back. So blessed. We have here a painting of a cow in a green field. Our mother tells us to look at it while she divides the fistful of rice into 4 portions. Cassini, how tremendous to be able to see the things no one else has, relentlessly. Perhaps you have some secrets you will not share with us earthlings.
I was just focused on the spacecraft, it's on the probe itself. And you know what? Answering this question makes me realize that, to me, when I start writing anything at all, it will always start out by being about something big, maybe, and then it will hone in on the object or person at the center of it. And if it's a probe at the center of it, I'll humanize it. I'll tend to do that. I'll maybe project feelings of loneliness upon it that somebody on Earth might be feeling. And so, to me, at that point, it was not relevant that it was a collaborative project, the Cassini probe, just that maybe on some level I was wondering why they couldn't bring it back, you know, instead of saying, all right, thank you very much. I mean, they do talk to these probes in almost humanized ways themselves. They applaud it. They thank it for its service. So even though they know it's not understanding it, obviously, but to humanize it that far in an irrational way, I was just wondering if they could not just bring it back. You know, I don't know the science, but
You felt close to Cassini.
huh? I did, yeah. That it was out there by itself, being all brave and doing the job, and then goodbye, thank you for your work. And that's just all I felt.
Today, a bomb killed the people next door, and a part of our roof fell down. My brother's spindly legs, sticking out from under the plaster, look just like yours, Cassini. Now I can see you in the night through the hole above my head. Go around, Cassini, apoaps, periaps, and once again. One time, a war lasted 15 years, Cassini, and cost 1 million lives. Maybe you and I will outlast the humanitarian appeals and the strong words of condemnation.
On one level, the fact that the U.S. is a place of refuge, but then also the U.S. is a place of the cause of so much of this unrest in ways that become clear to us 50 years, 60 years later. I'm like, oh, that was the hand of the so-and-so organization. They toppled over this government. They created sectarian violence, etc. So to escape from those issues, to seek the borders of the United States as a refuge, it just seems ridiculous, a ridiculous necessity, you know. And then also to be dependent on a country or a few countries for asylum. It does push the question of humanity, that what causes borders, what causes us to feel powerful to grant someone that you're worthy of saving, or you're worthy of us opening our borders to you, you're worthy of citizenship, you're worthy of keeping your citizenship, no questions asked, unconditionally. It just layers upon layers of... So as I'm answering this, I'm thinking we could do with a lot more humanity in this department. I don't think we should pat ourselves on the back when we say, yes, we granted asylum. What else could one have done? If one has the power to help someone out at the really simplistic most level, that's what it boils down to, right? If you happen to be sitting comfortably somewhere and someone is seeking help, if you help them out, that's not huge of you. That's bottom line humanity. That's just how I feel about it. Maybe it's really simplistic, but there's no politics in these feelings. It's just extending help. That's all it comes down to.
Cassini, I see your main engine shut off. You are orbiting in mourning. We will say goodbye to each other every day, just in case.
That was Endgame, written by poet Farah Ali, interviewed by Adolfo Guzman Lopez. Thank you for listening.